Today we continue our Zero to Hero journey on Epoch, where we uncover all of the added content and the new things to the Classic Plus Azeroth. This time around we find ourselves in 1000 Needles, soloing some of the most difficult quests and killing rares, as well as jumping right into the Razorfen Kraul that turned out to not be the best run ever. So we start off already deep in the 1000 Needles. The first order of business was clearing out a few wyverns before starting an escort. Standard stuff, or at least it should have been. The NPC I was supposed to protect turned out to be the laziest escort target imaginable. He hit hard, insanely hard actually, but only when he felt like it. If I pulled mobs, he would just stand there chilling, walking past me. If they touch him first though, suddenly he was a monster, slapping things for triple-digit damage. Typical escort logic. I marked him so I wouldn't lose track of him, grabbed the chest on the side, and just simply hoped the quest wouldn't fail because I got greedy as I would be too far away from the Tauren. Somehow everything just worked. The ambush at the end never really ambushed. Wyverns showed up and then just sort of existed without engaging. The NPC didn't care. I didn't complain. Easiest escort of my life. Sometimes the game just hands you a win and you don't ask questions. With that done, 1000 Needles started to open up. New quests everywhere. Kill targets, collection quests, counterattacks against central camps. This was exactly what this zone needed. Before, it always felt like an empty, like a giant canyon with nothing to say. Now, it felt just simply more alive. It gave you more XP, more reasons to explore, and more stories being told through quests instead of just terrain. I tracked down a centaur leader that was a part of new quest hiding in his tent, expecting something scary, maybe an elite, but he actually folded instantly. Loot was everywhere, mostly food, which was funny, but also a solid chest nearby and a small gear upgrade. Nothing insane, but it all adds up. That's kind of magic of Epoch and its new quest additions. You're rarely stuck grinding mindlessly on high-level brackets. There's always something nudging you forward until level 60. As I moved on, I kept an eye out for Steel Snap, the elusive roaming elite who could be anywhere between the needles. He wasn't around though. Funnily enough, I can slip a little spoiler here. I wasn't able to find him until the end of the video, so I just carried on. Hyenas, Cloud Serpents, Venom drops, classic drop quest Bane. You kill 5 mobs, get 1 item, and then you question your life choices. Add in harpies to the mix that will level 30 plus, and suddenly things get real. Pulling carefully became mandatory. Judgment pulls, line of sight, outranging cast tricks. Every part of the toolkit mattered. One mistake and things spiraled fast. The Harpy Cave was actually really brutal. Silences everywhere, I missed a lot due to the level differences, respawns coming in like crazy. Everything stacked against me. When I finally arrived at the quest area, I started opening the crates to summon the Garenka Harpy party. The trick to that quest is that 3 waves of harpies come at our way with small time spaces between each other, so we have to kill them fast. I'm a paladin and the 3 mobs were harpies creatures, therefore they apply 7-second silence pretty regularly, so I could forget about using spells. Also, I wanted to keep my cooldowns for as long as possible for the toughest last wave, when the boss actually shows up. I did wipe once, but I regrouped, stocked up once again with potions from alchemy and went back in with a plan. Clear patrols first, set the full control over the room, save the cooldowns, and don't panic. Slowly, methodically, it started to work. One pull at a time, stun at the right moment, I tried to unleash my burst as soon as possible to kill the group without healing, and before being actually silenced to death. Drinking water between fights like my life depending on, because it actually did. When the final waves came, it turned out I held everything. No babble needed, no lay on hands, just patience. And somehow, against all expectations, it actually worked. The last harpies dropped, my health stabilized, and I realized I hadn't even need half of my cooldowns. All that stress and that planning, and suddenly it was over. Although having that Philosopher's Stone from alchemy did help a lot, as it increases potion effectiveness by 40%. This means that up-to-date potions can get you back to full health. Pretty overpowered if you ask me. I already had enough of those harpies, so I decided not to fight them on my way out once again. I popped my swiftness potion, bubbled when I got dazed, and jumped out, barely alive, but victorious in the end. Standing there at the end, heart still racing, I couldn't help but laugh, as it was not the harpies that almost killed me this time, but the final jump, as my bubble faded away in the very last moment. Lucky bastard. From there, I stayed alert as I moved through the Thousand Needles, constantly scanning the horizon for two things in particular: these venom-dropping mobs I still needed, as they were pretty scarce in the area, and the Steel Snap, the roaming elite who might as well have been a myth at this point. I dealt with elementals first before heading toward the pinnacles, since this is all tied into the Arikara chain, and that's when I realized I'd messed up something. I was convinced that a quest started here, but no, you still have to go back to Thunderbluff eventually, as the quest does start in Thousand Needles, but the follow-up for the Arikara itself is being picked up at Thunderbluff. And there we go, so much for being efficient. The mobs weren't making things easier either. Casts flying everywhere, damage coming in a way harder than expected. I even forgot mid-fight that I needed to loot items off the ground instead of just killing everything on autopilot. At least, I picked up some swim speed potions on the way, one of those things you don't need often, but when you do, you're glad you have them. I overpulled and survived anyway, and then nearly got my face smashed in when the damage spiked out of nowhere. I stunned the foe, barely stabilized, and then finally something went right. A shoulder upgrade dropped. Leather, sure, but it had actual stats, unlike the nothing I was wearing before. It's intellect and stamina. Instant upgrade, I didn't even hesitate. Respawns here were wild. Items were popping back almost immediately, so all I had to do was just swim between two close points. And then I suddenly spotted it, a rare elemental perched awkwardly on the ledge, just out of reach. Unfortunately, as a paladin, I have no ranged pull, and there's awkward terrain, as always in classic Thousand Needles, so I dragged the fight somewhere safer from the water, took some serious hits along the way, but then I just parried at the right time and then did what every solo player should remember. I jumped. Line of sight, terrain abuse, fences, ledges, these are your best friends when you're fighting elites or rares, especially if you're not a class with strong self-healing. I jumped down, healed up in the water, and forced the mob to take the long way around. By the time it reached me, I was full health and ready. Clean kill, no cooldowns burned. I even noticed another paladin passing by. Funny how people say nobody plays this, yet I keep seeing players everywhere. Sure, it was late, but the world didn't feel dead at all. With my quests pushing me back to Thunderbluff anyway, I figured I would use the travel time smartly. New spells were waiting there, Seal of Light in particular, which would be huge for soloing tougher enemies. With Crusader Strike already baking in Seal of Crusader on Epoch, I had the freedom to run utility seals instead. Mana or healing, being judgmented on the target, were actually options that mattered. Before leaving, I double-checked my quest log and realized I'd missed a chain that bounced between Orgrimmar and Thunderbluff before sending you back here. But I guess I'm gonna do this later. While circling the zone yet again, still no Steel Snap, I started looking for a Razorfen Kraul group. New year, old dungeon, sounded perfect. I whispered pretty much everybody, and actually responses started flooding in. Slowly, a group came together. Tank secured, another paladin, a fury warrior, and a healer secured. Perfect, until I realized that the corpse maker I'm aiming at can be rolled by 4 persons out of 5 in the group. By the time we reached the meeting stone, the group looked stacked. The tank was over-leveled and geared with whirlwind axe on his back already, and I knew immediately how this was going to go. Fast, violent, and messy, in the best way. Although, after some inspecting, it turned out that other paladin is protection, so tanking, and second warrior is the fury spec, so he probably doesn't need corpse maker after all, so it shouldn't be that bad after all. The dungeon started brutally, massive pulls, mobs evaporating. The warrior was an absolute monster, cleaving everything into dust. I tried to keep up at least a little, but by spreading Crusader Strike, dropping Consecration, and watched things melt. Mana vanished instantly though, classic paladin life, but the healer was so good his mana bar barely moved. So I tried to utilize my spiritual attunement that did give me back some mana occasionally, but nothing that really mattered. Experience was terrible because of how overleveled the tank was. We were literally getting 1 XP for 3/4 of the dungeon. The bright side was that bosses started dropping quest items, which was a relief because I had no idea where half of them were supposed to come from. Epoch adding those directly to bosses was a great call after all. Amazing leather shoulders dropped from one of the bosses, but I was unlucky and the Fury Warrior got them. They looked so nice. We pushed deeper, with bigger pulls and more chaos. At one point, I deliberately stood in damage just so the priest would have to heal me and give me mana back. It worked. Sometimes, but it worked. Then came the Overlord Ramtusk finally. 14,000 health. This was it. The moment I've been waiting for. The axe, my dream. It wasn't that easy, to be honest. His massive health pool kept him alive pretty long, and from time to time he smacked random people like crazy. But eventually he went down, of course. And no axe though, not even the helmet. Some green shite that nobody needs. This is classic. But I was quite disappointed, I'm not gonna lie. I finished the custom quest from the Epoch from that boss, which means nice necklaces are waiting, but it stung hard as I hadn't gotten a weapon upgrade since the mid-20s, and here I was, level 30, still swinging the same old thing. Although gold was piling up, the auction house might have to save me. The dungeon kept going, more insane pulls, and people are nearly dying. I'm bubbling to survive. At one point I made a stupid mistake though. I was really glad I'm not hardcore. While crossing one of the bridges, I was fooling around with my spacebar and accidentally strafed left before jumping. It turned out that I made a very clean jump down into the valley full of elites. Well, I was attacked straight away, and the priest said I was just trying to die in a spot from which he can resurrect me back at top. Thankfully, it did work out, but that was true Damas move. Going further through the RFK, at least a little bit of XP started flowing now, as I was creeping closer to a level 31. Boss by boss, we pushed through. I picked up some small upgrades, a helm especially, which was pretty good with plenty of stamina and intellect, especially that I had only a cosmetic hood before. But the fun thing was the looks of that helmet. It was a true wizard hat, so now I looked like some kind of cheap battle mage. Classic vanilla appearance when nothing fits on you. Progress is progress though. Eventually we reached the Chargela Razorflank. She was a little bit of a high level for me, but the only trick she had up her sleeve was constant bubbling that was just delaying the inevitable. Finally she fell and the level ding came. 31. Sanctified Judgment unlocked. Finally some real mana sustain. That alone made the whole run feel worth it. After that, we did jump down and start the escort, but the paladin said he's out. I was considering doing it too, but my heartstone was set in 1,000 needles, so I still had a long way to turn in all of the quests, so I decided to stay. The worst part was that those mobs were pretty low level, so we get still only 1 XP, and the goblin was so freaking slow. But we needed a way out anyways, so we pushed through. By the time we finished the escort at the end, I was exhausted but satisfied. The loot hadn't been insane, the axe never dropped, but the run itself was solid. Old school chaos, big pulls, some close calls, overall a very good group composition. In the end, I hearted back to Fruent Post anyways, because I had full bags and I was already thinking about Thunderblath, new spells and the next stretch of the journey. By the time I wrapped up my turn-ins, it finally felt like things were clicking into place. One quest rolled cleanly into the next. Striking back finished, a follow-up immediately popping up asking me to hunt down Khan Abonhort at the post. That alone felt good. No dead ends, no awkward pauses, and the rewards surprisingly solid. Rings with stamina and strength, exactly the kind of quiet upgrades that don't look flashy but absolutely carry you forward. As I kept turning things in, it became clear how interconnected these new Epoch quests really were. Hypogryph work, commission quests layered on top, those in particular stood out. Commission quests just felt good, big chunks of XP, meaningful objectives, and they respect your time. You do the work, you feel the payoff immediately. One turn-in particular hit hard, the new quest in Camp Taurajo. The reward window popped up and I actually stopped for a second. Stamina, agility, strength, health per second, everything I want while leveling, and a massive chunk of experience on top of it. That's the kind of reward that makes the travel worth it. And the dungeon, of course. But speaking of travel, it was time for a long one. Thunderbluff was calling. I had dungeon quests to turn in, trainer upgrades waiting, and level 30 paladin spells that were going to fundamentally change how smooth leveling felt from here on out. Seal of Light alone was worth the trip. Sustain is everything when you're soloing tougher mobs, and this was going to push that survivability even further. I hadn't managed to track down Steel Snap, which was a shame. One more missed turn in, but it wasn't the end of the world. I would be back in Thousand Needles anyway, there was still plenty left to do. I sorted through the rewards carefully. Belt upgrades, cloth shoulders I didn't need, bucklers that almost tempted me. One belt in particular was absurdly good though. The reward for killing end boss of RFK. Strength, stamina, just clean value. Instant equip. I did check out the auction house, dreamed a little. Cobalt Crasher stared back at me for 34 gold like a cruel joke. Burning War Axe, 14 gold. Tempting, painfully tempting. It would have been a massive upgrade, but draining myself dry right before Paladin training just didn't make sense. Especially that after Epoch rework of Paladin, big chunk of our damage is still holy, so it's not that bad. At the trainer we finally learned Seal of Light. Consecration improved, blessings unlocked, divine intervention sitting there like a future promise, and looming on the horizon, seals that would turn AoE combat into something beautiful. Even if some of these abilities wouldn't shine just yet, the foundation was being laid. Seal of Light though, that was the real prize. With Crusader Strike already handling Seal of the Crusader passively on Epoch, I finally had a meaningful seal to judge and maintain. Mana sustain or healing sustain depending on the situation. In 3 words, choice, flexibility, and control. I turned in Sacred Fire and picked up the Arikara's chain and got ready for more traveling. From there, we headed to Crossroads to pick up a Thousand Needles quest chain start, and then to Orgrimmar. After that, we headed to Dustwallow Marsh, as I needed the first 8 books. No sense of wasting silk cloth when I could be making proper bandages and getting the skill ups. It was really quiet there, dangerous mobs nearby, but nothing I couldn't sleep past. I just wanted the box, the skill unlocks, and to be gone. Gold disappeared faster than I liked it, as it was pretty expensive, but now I wouldn't have to be coming back. Future-proofing always feels good. On the flight back toward Thousand Needles, I thought to myself that I really badly need that weapon upgrade, but on the second thought, Scarlet Monastery was just around the corner. Ravager, graveyard weapons, armory dreams, the path forward was clear and generous. Thousand Needles opened up beneath me again, the expanded view range on Epoch making it look almost unreal beautiful, but slightly broken in some places. Still, there was more legwork to do. I skipped the elevator and jumped straight down with the Babylon, faster, cleaner, more efficient. Turned in the Garenka claws, grabbed the follow-up, hunt the Rock Alim the Pounder, and scythe a little when the XP wasn't as hard as I hoped. Still, another elite, another goal. And then I headed back to the cozy tents of the ruined post, as that felt like the perfect place to stop to get some rested XP before the new adventures, as Thousand Needles still had plenty left to throw at me.